See, this makes me want to, what I'm going to do is going to take some time. It's going to make me want to write a, plug in to save a scenario just to test without having to build everything. Like, I want to test like mid-game, but I don't think devs really test this out like in this way. Like Siege, I was designing to test the entire game, how it should play out, the beginning, middle, end, and the extra end, just in case the first end wasn't enough, like a song. So it's a bit tough to test certain scenarios in NS2 without like making your own way to test it. So I'm gonna go the long way. What I mean by that is if I want to test what happens when I have weapons 2 and full base, I gotta use all these cheat codes to repeat the scenario or to pretend the scenario. And don't get me started on these sentries. Every time I get these sentries, I'm tempted to bring them to Siege version again, where they don't have to rely on this, and they're 360. And on Siege, I had this battery not be a sentry battery, but be a backup power battery that powers structures around here without requiring this power. And let me tell you, that brings some wild strategies. As long as these turrets are dumb in that they're slow in movement, where a skull could circle around it and the sentry has slow aim, kind of like the Hydras in accuracy. Like in Siege I made that. But let's test just having, you know, honestly, I never ever see something like this happen where the Marines could actually defend these resource towers. One would argue who needs to defend them with a base, but I would say it's quite fun when you could defend and gain territory back and forth, like in Siege. So just want to get a certain landmark, so I'll get bots in. And these CDT hasn't learned the lesson that I've learned in Siege, is adding researches doesn't help. I added so many researches in Siege. I added Spider Gorge research, I had Acid Rocket research, and I had all these Onos ability extra add-ons researches, and then I had a research that upgraded Skulk Death to when they die, it spawns Rupture and blinds Marine's vision extremely, because I modified Rupture even more. So what I'm trying to get to is, eventually I simplified the Marine and Alien Commander to have the researches as passive over time, because for example, once I drop Arms Lab, it would automatically research for free, and it would be time based between a minimum and maximum value for each tier that I would input manually. So tier 1 would be a minimum random time between like the 2-minute mark and the 4-minute mark, and armor 1 would be like between the 5 and 6-minute mark. Just the average time that a commander would get the upgrades. So what I learned from that is that it works. You get commanders that focus more on teamwork than anything, rather than disassociating themselves with the team by having to click here, then click here, then click here, then there, and instead you're here the whole time, pretending, let's assume your team's here. You're focused on dropping structures, assuming you have the rest to do it. But hey, who knows? Then maybe that's what NS2 people like. What do I know? I'm gonna just continue this default vanilla NS2 mods that don't affect gameplay too much regarding commanders, balance, crags, and everything I've gone overboard with since Siege. And there's one more thing I want to get out there. After December came, or after December when January came, when I started to rewrite NS2 Siege, and whatever happened happened. People may not realize CDT started releasing updates, and the way I wrote Siege up until that point, or up until now, was by overwriting files from NS2, and that's not really the best way to go about writing a mod, especially because those files that I overwrite are overwritten every time NS2 updates. So I've been overwriting things because it's simple. Learning to replace something without overwriting it is a hassle on its own that I didn't want to have to deal with. So basically in 2015 was a good time to write Siege when there was no CDT or Unknown Worlds updates on NS2 as much as there is in 2016. So even if I didn't go do what I did from January to March and from May to June in regards to NS2 Siege and making auto commanders and writing dropships and redesigning the core concept of Siege with dynamic timers and all of these things, even if I didn't do that, Siege would still be broken by the CDT updates, and I would still be in the scenario where Siege would be broken because I wouldn't budge into updating Siege for CDT updates, because that's where I'm at now. If I am to continue Siege, it's there's also the creative block from everyone, not to name names, but everyone who attempts to make their own version. Although that's a hypocritical statement because I'm making my own version of Siege. It's just, I have, 2 years experience writing NS2 Lua, and when it comes to people telling me what to write and being upset that I don't write a certain way and blaming me for my vision and my not wanting to help the community or whatever they want to blame on me, just let me tell you that there's also a medical condition that I haven't been speaking about that I've had to address, which is also why I haven't wanted to be around in servers as much. I don't want to get into too many details on that, but we'll be back in August to perhaps look at Siege again if there's no one else that's trying to what am I trying to say? Zycar. If Zycar gets off my back, or if Intrepid gets off my back, if Dark gets off my back, if all these people get off my back and stop telling me what to do, who else is it? Neck Snapper. I can't. There's so many names that I kind of wanted to forget everyone. Obliterator. Redcar. All these people from NS2 Siege that have their idea, what's Dr. Krieger, Lemon Party, all these people that I hardly know their real names. Some of them I know their real names, but for the most part, people don't understand when they tell me how to do things, that you have to know what you're talking about. Like, if you look at the Lua and you start reading it, oh my gosh, what am I trying to say? It's just so many people. Redcar, Intrepid, Scoots, all these poisonous personalities that keep, like, peer pressuring me, basically, to this is how I feel anyways. It's almost a bullying feeling, because here I am making this content that I am comfortable with, but then you could say it's an issue of development versus players, or what the player expects and what the developer expects. Because when I write this, and because from August, my perspective, NS2 Siege has always changed with seasons. So from August to December of 2015 was one season, and from February to June of 2015 was another season. And this year I'm copying the same seasons. 2015 I broke down Siege, what it was, and I made it so commanders could drop rest nodes. I made it so commanders could drop tech points, and I made the tech points randomized on the map. And I have even maps called True Siege or Dynamic Siege, and I have all these ideas that fail, obviously, because I have to grow my writing somehow. When I do these writings that are bizarre, I take what does work, such as right now I'm taking the main room formula, which I wrote back in March and January, back when I wrote the King Cyst formula. All these things may go over your head, but basically this year I stopped writing. I mean, this year I didn't stop writing. I stopped going on the server and caring what people wanted, and just started writing more what I wanted. Because when I wrote Siege originally back in September 2014 and originally started Siege, it was because I wanted to play that, and I did play it. Okay, every day I played Siege, and every day I updated Siege based on what I saw. People may remember that I observed the game and I updated its small convar. I remember at first it started with Ono's Stomp. At first I would observe Ono's Stomp, and I would look at, okay, I don't like this is overpowered. It would kill jetpackers immediately, because this is September 2014 I'm talking about. So September 2014, Onos would instantly kill a jetpacker, because when you were stunned, it meant that you were dead instantly. You couldn't move. This was my opinion. So you may recognize a year later, I had Onos stun my way. I had it so when Onos would stun, a bone wall would appear on the person, and it wouldn't flatten them on the ground. They could still shoot, but the bone wall had like maybe 100 health, and it would go away. So it would be a number of these mods within mods within mods that would accumulate to its own separate game, that I am under the impression that players liked in such a way that cannot be copied if Zycar, if Ibis, or if DMD try to mimic what it is that I make. So excuse me if I have a bit of an ego, or a bit of a wanting to stay on my creative control on what it is that I write, and that I ask that people don't tell me what to write, but try to trust me, and because I'm going based on the feedback that is in the game, and not just based on, like, oh boy, if I say anything more, it'd be a bit hypocritical, because I had a lot of admin abuse experience on NS2 Siege. But when I did admin abuse on NS2 Siege, I did label it admin abuse in chat. I gave people credits, I changed their model size, made them small, big. I could keep going on, but I think I talked quite long enough. I want to get to writing. So let me get back to what I was doing. I set up some simple marine base here. This is not an average scenario. You don't usually see this.